All right, welcome back. Feels like it's been a while, which it kind of has been over a week, I think, since I've talked about carnivore or anything like that. So I'm going to get into the holiday and the new year, my experiment with heavy whipping cream and doing whipped cream with that, coffee, and my approach to eating, and some clues that I have just for myself, and whether that applies to you guys or not, you can decide. But I always talk about my experiences and what I'm going through, and then kind of allow people to apply that as they need to, so that I'm not giving anybody advice because I never want to do that. I don't want to judge anyone else. This is such a complicated thing that each person needs to figure out what works for them. So no judgment as usual, and just do what works for your body and your mindset. So quick note off the top, one of the reasons I have not made any videos is because I'm sick. You can probably hear it in my voice, and I will actually start there because one really interesting thing is I have three kids. I have a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And all of my kids and my wife are extremely healthy, thank God. They almost never get sick. I'm usually the one who gets whatever, they bring home from school or something like that. So traditionally, I would be the one who gets super, super sick. They might get like a sniffle or something, maybe nothing. When they got COVID, they were done in like 24 hours and they were over it. I almost died from COVID on the flip side of that. So this time, one of my kids brought home some crazy bug, and I think a lot of people have it. If you have, it feels like RSV, maybe the flu. I don't know exactly what it is. But if you guys or your family are going through it, please leave a comment below and let me know what your experience is, because um, both my wife and all three of my kids got sick and really sick. I mean, fever, coughing, got into their lungs, got into their sinuses, all kinds of stuff. So, and my wife is like super, super healthy. I mean, she never gets sick. She's got like that mom gene where everybody else gets sick and she doesn't. And this time she got almost the sickest out of everybody. So, what I wanted to talk about is for myself is although I did get the bug, whatever it is, I think it's probably RSV, but although I did get it, and I'm very prone to lung issues, maybe because I had COVID that really severely, and I've always had some lung issues when I get sick, but this time, and I don't know whether it's because of carnivore, that's really the only thing that I've changed, but this time I have had like sore throat, a little bit of a cough, sniffly, that kind of thing, and I felt under the weather like a couple days. But other than that, my body has fought the entire thing off. I have not gotten the bronchitis and just difficulty breathing I usually get. Um, and so to me, that's a major indication that my body is healing and that my body is doing things that it could not do before. The other way that I know for a fact that it was a severe illness and that my body was going through things is because I haven't changed my diet whatsoever. So it's still strict carnivore with cheese every now and then if I need to elevate my blood sugar. So I use cheese to elevate my blood sugar a little bit if I need to, rather than using any kind of carbs or anything. But my insulin requirements for a few days during the peak of the sickness went up at a minimum 100%, sometimes 2 or 300%. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it is not. And I'm sure other type 1 diabetics, if they're listening or if they want to kind of second that, when you get sick, the mechanism is too much to go through in terms of how and why it happens. It's not necessarily insulin resistance, but it's certain things that occur within your body when your immune system is ramping up to fight a virus or some kind of an invader that it wants to get rid of. But anyway, you're even for a normal person, but for a diabetic, you see it in your dosages that you're taking. Your insulin levels go up massively. So I read a story of one guy whose blood sugar when he first got sick skyrocketed up to like 400, and in order to get his blood sugar back down to 250, he took 70 units of insulin. Now, just to give you an idea of what that is like, when I'm healthy and I'm eating a hamburger and three eggs and butter and salt, I'm taking maybe 2 units of insulin, maybe three if I'm being lethargic and not working out or doing anything that day. And this person had to take 70 units just to get his blood sugar back to a not going to the hospital level. So the reason I'm telling you that is because the things that happen to you while you're sick, even though a lot of people aren't aware of them, as a diabetic, you are aware of all of it because you have to actually actively manage those things. So the fact that my body could fight it off, my blood sugar actually did rise. So normally I'd be between 100 and 150. I was tending toward 150 to 200 and taking 2 to 3 times the same amount of insulin that I would anyway, and still it was wanting to stay higher. That shows you how hard my body was fighting whatever this was. So maybe that's boring. You can fast forward that part. Maybe some people did fast forward it, but I think it's interesting to see the mechanisms of your body and how it fights these things, especially as it relates to the carnivore diet. So that made me super hopeful that this is doing something significant and it's a significant improvement in my body, which I didn't need confirmation. I already knew that, but anyway. So moving on to, I mentioned in a couple other videos about how I was going to try heavy whipping cream to whip it into whipped cream and just see what it tasted like. And maybe that would be like a little quote unquote cheat, even though it's not a cheat, over Christmas. And so I did try that. I whipped like a cup of heavy whipping cream and I tried it without any sweetener at first, and it did actually taste sweet to me. But oddly enough, it didn't do anything for me. It wasn't something where I was like satisfying a craving or it tasted really good or I wanted to have that more and save it and that would be a good cheat thing for me. It was really interesting because my I can tell that something has changed where I don't crave that anymore. I don't want that taste and I'm not seeking those flavors out anymore. I did do a little bit also with stevia because I was like, okay, maybe because it's not sweet, it's not tasting as good, even though it did taste a little sweet to me without an artificial sweetener. Even with the stevia, it almost tasted worse. Um, it, again, it just did not satisfy any craving. I didn't have a craving for it, and I didn't want it, and I actually threw the rest of it out after, of course, giving my kids a little bit of a taste of it. So um, that was also really encouraging that just knowing those cravings for me are almost totally gone. I just don't get anything from those tastes, and I don't think about needing those tastes anymore. The next subject I wanted to tackle is coffee. Now, coffee, I wouldn't say I was a heavy drinker, but I was a definite drinker, and I never drank coffee even up until probably my late 30s. I actually started drinking when I had kids. That was my thing where I needed to just stay awake when I could not stay awake. I mean, sometimes when you're working and you have kids and I was on shift work, you just need a boost to stay up and past what you normally would do. So I would say 2 cups a day, maybe three on a bad day where I really needed help with things. And initially, when I was going back to keto and then carnivore, I wasn't dedicated one way or another to either keeping up coffee or stopping coffee. I was just kind of on the fence about it. But naturally, I just stopped drinking coffee. I just started feeling better. I wasn't as tired. One thing I did notice is like acid reflux type symptoms went away after I stopped drinking coffee. So I would say I've been off coffee now for like 2, maybe 3 weeks. And I actually tried a half calf coffee the other day just to see what it would taste like and what it would feel like. And again, it was kind of like my experience with the whipping cream. I wouldn't say it was disgusting, but it didn't do anything for me. There's no upside to it. And actually, the caffeine gave me a little bit of a bump in my blood sugar. So it's just yet another variable that I'm like, why am I putting that into my body when it just adds something else I have to think about? So those are two experiences I had over Christmas and the holidays where things were kind of solidifying. Um, in that if I don't want coffee and I don't want sweets, something has definitely changed. It's a drastic change, not just, oh, I can I can kind of feel something. I can kind of do this. This feels okay. It's major. Those are drastic changes. So if you had told me a few months ago that I'd be giving up coffee, I would have probably said, yeah, maybe with 3 naps during the day. But that's not how it feels. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit with the new year and a lot of the videos I'm seeing. And again, this is not critiquing anyone else's journey because I've been through so much stuff with diabetes and trying all kinds of different diets. And I mean, I could just go on and on about that. So I would never judge anyone else's journey along the path of becoming carnivore or fixing health because I know how complicated and how hard it is. So don't hear um, my opinions as critiquing others, but maybe if my experiences and my take on things helps others, that's more of the perspective I'd like to put out there. So the New Year stuff, I've never been a big New Year's resolution person. So I started carnivore just after Thanksgiving. I think it was the day after Thanksgiving, actually. And it was really, I won't go into some of the reasons are very personal. And I really don't want to go into them at this point. Maybe I will in the future at some point. But needless to say, they're very personal, very kind of this is a fork in the road type of moment for health and my life and that kind of thing. So I had already made that decision based on other things. So if a New Year's resolution is that for you, that's great. Whatever the catalyst is for you, it could be a health experience, a relationship experience, having kids, who knows what it might be. But whatever it is, it has to come from inside. It can't come from, at least for me, it can't come from outside, although you might attribute it to that. It's got to come from some place inside you that is untouchable by outside things, if that makes sense. In other words, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter whether it's the New Year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whether I live in a war zone, in a peaceful country, and whatever. There has to be something that is driving you that will not be touched by the currents of whatever the day is. So big waves, small waves, rip current, calm current, whatever that might be, you're going to ride those waves out, whatever it is. So like I said, I've never been one for a New Year's resolution, big thing, but if you are going to do it, make sure that that resolution comes not from a new year, but from somewhere deep inside you where the little things are not going to change that for you. So, in that same vein, I wanted to give you a little insight into how I know things are going in a different direction for me and how I feel is different than any other time that I've felt in my life. And it doesn't even matter what the reason is, but this is one of the big clues for me in terms of my diet and my health, whether I'm going to stick to it, why it's different this time, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that these are all things that other people are going through because I see the videos. And I'll relate it to those videos in a second. So, what it is for me is, as I said, with the whipping cream or the coffee, if I'm looking for ways to satisfy my hunger or a craving or my taste buds, that's not about food. That's about emotional eating. It's about psychology. It's also about hormones because your hormones are major signals. If you have high insulin levels, you're going to crave different kinds of food. And it's not because you're a bad person, it's because your hormone levels are out of control. But there's also the psychological element of using food emotionally to comfort yourself, to fill in gaps otherwhere in your life that are not working out for you. In my other job, one of the things that I do is in finance, so stock market, etc. And that will tear you apart if you are not psychologically sound. And it's extremely easy to use crutches. There are people who become drug addicts, alcoholics, obese because they use food as their comfort from things like that. So you have a bad day in the market, you come home, you have alcohol, maybe you have drugs, maybe you just overeat or you eat the wrong things. These are all things that are clues to me about what your relation is to food, but also are you healing yourself 100% as a person? And so with the whole coffee thing and the whipping cream, or seeking out recipes that are quote unquote carnivore, and again, I'm speaking about myself, but apply it to yourself or any videos you see. If you're searching for constantly searching for recipes and tastes and textures and things to make this diet bearable, it's not the diet. It is not the diet. It's hormones, it's psychology. It's those things working all together and how you relate to food. So, what I've noticed is a major thing for me is I can eat beef, salt, eggs, and butter, and I don't want to snack at night. I don't want to snack during the day. I'm not looking to satisfy any particular taste or textures. Those things have ceased for me. If those things come back, then I know that something else is going on. It's not about the food. It is not about the food. And I know that because it doesn't have to be. If I have a bad day and I want a donut, it's not about the donut. It's not about the taste. It's about what the perceived benefit of those things are: comfort, security, pleasure. I had a crappy day. I should at least deserve the pleasure of a donut. That is a flawed way of thinking. How do I know that? Because I've done it a million times, and I've done it in a way as a diabetic that has harmed my body and has harmed my mind. And I know that those things are a black hole. They lead you to nowhere. They lead you to destruction. So, and when I say you, I'm speaking figuratively you, not you, the viewer, but myself when I was doing those things. So that's my big clue. If I, for some reason, go back to like looking for recipes and just obsessing about taste, textures, what's going to satisfy me, then I'm doing something wrong somewhere in my life, my professional life, my family life, my relationship, something. But it's not just about the food. And so a lot of videos that I've been seeing lately that just kind of pop up in the algorithm, it's a lot of carnivores and they're talking about recipes they're doing. They're spending time preparing food. And for me, that's a warning sign for me. Anytime I go down that path, I know that there's something wrong because I know the carnivore diet in its basic form is satisfying and is proper nutrition for me. If any of those other issues pop up, I know it's a road to failure. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but at some point, those things are going to get you because you're still focusing on the process of food, food as it relates to your emotions, food as it relates to your everyday routine. I get up, I eat what I need to eat till I'm satiated to the point where I don't want to eat anymore, and I'm done and I'm doing other things. It's as simple as that. And the very simplicity of it will be annoying to you and will be difficult if you're not in the right place. So it's just a clue that I use to find out where I am and what is working and what's not. So I think I've rambled on enough about that. Hopefully, I was pretty straightforward. Again, talked about the holiday and the new year, whipping cream, coffee, my approach to eating, and the clues that I have when things are going well or not, and also my experience being sick and what the carnivore diet has apparently done for me in terms of strengthening my ability to fight off sickness. So sorry for the delay. I hope my voice wasn't too bad to listen to, and I hope the video was okay. It's a Creative Commons video just walking through Amsterdam, and I thought that was kind of an interesting way to continue through the video without yet showing my face. So thanks for watching. I will try to put more content up consistently, and thank you everybody for subscribing and liking. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.